Okay, there's my friend. All right, good evening and welcome to the second of our 3 sessions in June. These are focused on the handbook for artists working in community, and we're really focusing on the kind of real groundwork. But this is continuing conversations going a little bit deeper than we had in January. And we're going to get up to a certain point in the workbook, and then we're going to pause for a bit, let some projects get going, because the workbook has terrific resources in actually formulating a project, the nuts and bolts of it, writing a press release, if you need that kind of thing. But there are exercises for working with groups, and we'll dig into that as we're going to let some projects start to shape up, and then I think it'll be a better experience for us. But we thought it would be good to keep building momentum. And tonight we're going to, well, this is the welcome, check that off. We're going to do our traditional call for inspiration, reflections, or
You can watch it here if you want.
and let's see.
You can watch it.
And Kathy, I muted you, but you can unmute yourself when you're ready. Let's see, we're going to do the call for inspirations, reflections, and learnings in just a minute. That's a great time to share what's happened with you lately. Then we're going to talk about artists and community. You know what? I think I have another slide. I think I started to do that, and then the phone rang. And then we're going to focus a little bit more on artist groundwork, and then slide into the community a little bit and talk about working with community and the roles of the artist and the roles of community members and the spectrum of that. And then next time we'll talk about really focus more on the community. So again, the year of the artist, we're advancing community goals. We're integrating artist and civic problem solving. We're exploring and experimenting. We're paying artists, strengthening the network, connecting in many, many ways. And you'll see Arts Connect. That's kind of the arts organizations in the community have come together under the ARPA funding, and they're trying to tell stories about how the arts connect. And we're going to have lots of stories about arts connecting through these projects. Very importantly, we're having fun and we're engaging with a sense of play as we do this as well. And we're building a learning community. So none of us have done this before, and we're digging in, learning every step of the way. It's never going to be perfect, but we're going to do it with good intention, and I think have some great outcomes. So inspiration, reflections, and learnings over the past week. Let's check in. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Anything happen?
I guess, can I tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I will tell you, I did get, when I put my artist's self-portrait on my Facebook, and it was really nice to get a lot of affirmation from just friends. But I did have a couple of people that were like, I wanted to do this, but I didn't know how, or I didn't know exactly what to do. So it felt like, okay, this is a chance to explain it a little bit more. So I did have a chance to interact with one of the friends that we had in common, Anita, and just really understand more what her problems were. And we were able to really have a great conversation about what this wants to embrace, and I think we've talked enough about how a lot of times people don't see themselves as artists, or they have some concerns about what does that mean. And that's just something I think we had to work with as a culture in general, right? What does that even mean? And who gets to say you're an artist and who doesn't? And we're all sensitive people. So some people don't want to put themselves out there and be turned down or be criticized. So we were able to talk about that. So that was a really good conversation. And yet again, another issue that seems to come up with a lot of people outside of the friends who are doing these group meetings is there's people who have no idea what we're talking about. They're not online. And so they don't have the opportunity to get more of this. So that's something to keep making an effort to do. How do we have a paper for people who are not computery that has these things written out that we can just say, here, this is what this is about. You know, it's going to be going on for a year, so there's more to learn about. So I would just reflect on that. Like, how do we reach the people who have yet to understand what this is about, or how they can be part of it, even as just participants in the community.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. I'm going to pop over to Kyle in just a second, but let me, while you're mentioning that, you know, there were a number of, we've got, as part of these grant resources, we're hiring folks to help us. And one of those folks is the artist in residence, who's going to be focused on community building, or communications and network building. Can you hear me? Okay, everybody looked really frozen. So I got,
yeah, you kind of went away, but you're back.
Okay, well, let me, I just, okay, I want to point out Samantha Meyer, who's going to be our, wow, I really am fading a little bit. You would think I'm doing this from the office, so it would be better than doing it from home, but apparently not. Samantha Meyer is going to be our artist in residence focused on community building, or the network building and communications. And part of what she's got in mind, you know, her project is going to be telling the story, building the story as we go, getting the word out as we go, but very importantly, capturing the learnings from us during the year. And we're going to have lots of ways, like conversations like this, where we are learning collectively. And Samantha is going to be charged with pulling that together in a product. So I do think that's really important. We're going to have to keep communicating in many, many ways. But I think part of the design of this too, if we have artists in residence who are working in the community with you know, neighborhood organizations and folks who don't identify as artists, or wouldn't, you know, might not be on our list and aren't, you know, might not have ever walked into the Taubman Museum of Art. I think this is very naturally going to, and intentionally going to expand the reach and communicate as we're doing the work. Kyle.
Yes. You know, I have had several gigs as I've been out in the community, and I would like to just kind of piggyback on what Catherine was saying, that there's a number of artists that I have run into, whether they're musicians or theater people, that still have not seen or heard You're the Artist. And you've done a lot of publicity already. It's been on the community TV, it's been on, you know, several programs. So I think you're already doing a good job. One of the things that, to get it out, do you have any kind of a poster visibility that's out at some of these musical events or the symphony, to be able to put something up in the lobby, an small information table where a volunteer could sit there and say, ask me about the Year of the Artist, and have a bullet point list of, you know, what is your form of art? You know, do you know how to get grants? Would you like to join our community? Ask me. And so there's so many events that are already going on. If we can have some sort of a presence at those events where Art by Night, Friday night, I'm stunned at how many professional artists and artists that are working out there still apparently don't know about the Year of the Artist.
Well,
and how about a billboard? I mean, can we get somebody to sponsor a yearboard that simply says Yoda and then ask us or something?
Yes, and we've got some resources to do it too. And thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle and Catherine, for being out there talking to people about it. First of all, word of mouth is the best tool, or the best way we're going to do this, and that's got to be foundational. And yes, we can set up. We were at a festival in the park for 2 days recently, and we had the big wheel, and we had information about Year of the Artist. And I know we're getting one Art Matters grant out of a conversation that happened during that time. We're happy to have that big wheel out, and we do it in collaboration with Shalene Powell at the Roanoke Cultural Endowment. And so we're talking about both the Arts Commission, the Cultural Endowment. Helen was out there, Helen Dean, who's our Arts Commission member. She was out there spinning the wheel with kids, and folks really do enjoy it. We ask them trivia questions about the arts, and the trivia questions are really about how they engage in the arts. The best is show us your favorite dance move. That's my favorite question. So, and it is a lot of fun. And we were going to be at the not Henry Street Festival, but the Gainsborough Neighborhood Block Party. But I ended up having COVID and couldn't set it up. There's going to be like a Southeast event, the Southeast I Love Southeast Festival on the 28th of July. And I talked to her last night about maybe getting out there. So what I'll probably do is extend the volunteer opportunity if folks want to come out with us. You know, it's a lot of fun to talk about the arts with people.
I don't know if it's too short notice, but there's some informational tables still left for the Juneteenth Festival at Eureka Park this weekend. If anybody can come out and spread some information. I'm working that day, so I'll be doing a lot of working, but if anyone wants to share some information out there, that opportunity is available.
Robin, is that on Saturday or Sunday?
That's on Saturday at the at Eureka Park.
And what are the hours?
It's 12 to 4.
I think
I can show up.
I think I can make that happen.
Okay.
And we can do it all Black history trivia or Black arts trivia questions too, around that.
I can pitch in.
All right.
Excellent. Okay.
I'll send you the information once we get off the call, just so you have it from Jordan Bell.
Great.
Okay.
That would be fun. That would be fun. I've just got to work with our partner, Shalene Powell, and I still have the big wheel. It's in the storage. It's in the storage. So my car makes a noise when I drive with it, though. That's the only thing. It won't really fit in the car. But so I'll be announcing myself as I drive up. I'll follow up with you, Robin. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So and yes, and we've talked with let's see, Jane Gabrielle McCadden is working on the design for the big Yoda letters. And we have those Yoda letters, that's going to be end up being a logo for it. Once we have that logo, we can do things like do a billboard and such. I do want this to be kind of led by, the network of you all kind of shaping it for us. So, okay. Well, excellent. Thank you. And one more, any other, does anybody else have anything? Any inspiration or learnings or ahas? All right, with that, I will go ahead and I'll run back to our screen and we'll hit our big question for the night. Okay, so remember, and thank you, Kyle, last time. This is really helpful. And I do want to review some of those values that we said are driving our work as artists in community. And these are some of the things that you said. You wanted for art to become a catalyst for positive change in communication. You wanted to listen, to be part of the community, to support belonging and inclusion, to make the invisible visible, to encourage the strengths of the community, that the community feels inspired, motivated, and they have potential in themselves, that you set out to do something that is impossible to do by yourself, and that as a group or community, you can feel part of something that's bigger than yourself. Fun and curiosity inspires more fun and curiosity. Empathy helps you learn about others, hearing from others, the contagiousness of creativity. That's what you want to experience. And the importance of feeling connected and a sense of belonging, that people can have impact on the world around them. That was all so powerful. When I went back and looked at it in those notes that Kyle typed up, it's like, yes, that's it. That's the spirit of it. So I did want to check in. Has anybody like actually gone in and downloaded the handbook and started to look at it? Great. Yeah, do you have any observations on it? Ask Catherine Schnabel.
I thought it was really well done in terms of how kind of bite-sized concepts it's shared and how you kind of are led to think about that in your own artistic way. It's not just thrown at you like blah, blah, and blah. It's very, I think it's very well done in these blocks of thinking and the way you can respond about them on your own. I liked it. Yep.
Yeah. I feel like you can kind of dip into it and let it
Mhm.
thinking, and then there's some tools, and you don't have to use every tool in it.
Yep.
But I do think that the thing, I do like that question of what I bring to what I'm doing. Like, what are my strengths? If I understand my strengths and I am using them, sharing them, it's going to be a lot more successful than if I don't have that self-knowledge, if I am trying to fit a mold that I don't necessarily fit naturally by, okay, I'm going to be working with a community, so I feel like I should be this kind of person, or I should play this kind of role. There's something about, your natural gifts, your natural curiosities, and the work that you do as an artist, that authentically engaging and building relationships is going to take us a lot farther. And I feel like that spirit is in this. So here are a couple of quotes, and we're going to focus really on this one question tonight about the role of the artist and the role of the community. And I think it's going to be a rich conversation. Just like last time, I said we only have one question, so it won't last an hour, but it did. Okay, so here's a quote from June Lee, who's terrific. I've had several really good conversations with her. I know Catherine Devine's been in training with her as well. When I work in community as an artist, I have to be clear to myself and everyone else. Am I the architect or am I the facilitator or something in between? And it can be all of those things. It can be project specific. It doesn't, it's going to change, but we've got to be thoughtful about the role. And then this quote from choreographer Liz Lerman: artists have a point of view that is important, but when working in community, artists need to be open to influence. Artists do not need to abandon their insights or ideas, but they need to be open to the insights and ideas that others have to share. So not every project is going to, you're not going to give up your identity and your creativity and your independence as an artist by doing a project in community. You do have to go about it a different way. And frankly, there are probably some artists out there who aren't, it's not what they're interested in. It's not the kind of project that they're built for. And that's fine. That's fine. There are all kinds of ways to benefit the community. There is a community, Strasburg here in Virginia, that has a mural project, and they pay artists to paint murals on the buildings, and but the building owner gives over complete control. The community does not dictate or get involved in what gets painted on the building, and the artist has free reign. And it becomes their project. It's in a community setting or a public setting, but it's a very different kind of project than the kinds of projects we're talking about here tonight. And like I said, any design is fine, but we've got to be thoughtful about it. Okay, so here's that spectrum of collaboration. And what I'd like to do is kind of run through it. And I'd like everybody to kind of think about a project that they have done, or a project that they observed, or a project that they are thinking of doing, or just dreamed of. Said, okay, well, here's this is a project that I would love to do, and it's a project with community. And this spectrum of collaboration has 4 different components. So the ideation: who dreams, brainstorms, creates the vision, comes up with the idea. So is that the artist, or is it the community, or is it somewhere in between? And then planning. Who makes the decision about the project activities, the timeline, the budget? How are you going to evaluate if the project was successful? Is it the artist? Or is it the community? Artistic design. Who makes decisions about the design of the artistic product? Is it the artist? Or is it the community? Or is it done in some collaborative fashion? And implementation and creation. Who makes decisions related to creation and implementation? Who's involved in creating the final product? And we do, of course, my role as the arts and cultural coordinator, we oversee the public art collection for the city of Roanoke, and that's public art. And I like to think of the ways the public can be involved in it. The public can help identify the goals for the project from the very beginning. They can be on the selection panel for the artist. The artist can engage them in developing a response to a call. The artist can engage a community in feedback on design. The artist can have people actually physically helping to create the project. And then of course the public is engaged in if the art is inspiring them or pleasing them or challenging them, they're interacting with it in some way in the public space. So very similarly, but no project's the same when we work with an artist and we bring them into the community. And some of them have a set way they know how they're best going to work, and others are willing to experiment. So I'd love to kind of dive into an example project and have somebody lead us through these four. Does anybody want to take kind of tell us about a project and how they see it lining up? Catherine. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, you're still muted.
Got it. Okay. So for me, I've done a lot of things in this community, and there's a real range between like a commission, someone's got an idea, like I've done sculptures for Mill Mountain Zoo and Clean Valley Council, and they had specific goal of educating the public about reusing and reducing environmental waste and the impact of environmental waste on the habitat of local animals. So they were very specific. This is what we want. But I do really appreciate working with them in that they gave us a budget for materials and a lot of free rein how we did it. They had real specific about what they wanted, but complete artistic authority over what we used and how we did it. They had a timeline, they had a budget, they had an idea, and that was the collaboration. So that was kind of an interesting way of thinking it. It's like a commission for me, right? That's one word I would use, but it's also this type of way of thinking about it. How much control do I have over the idea? And of course, I've had challenges when sometimes people want to have more input in the design. So I've been fortunate, and I've been around long enough to know some projects are just not for me. Like my style, what I do well, doesn't fit what these people are looking for. So there's a little bit of understanding about that over time, like, oh, I wish I had never said I would do this, or if they want you to work with materials that are not your forte. Like, I don't know how to do something with this particular type of material that they are desiring. So it's interesting to think of it as a collaboration because it has been successful. Those particular ones I can think of, been nice. And then smaller ones would be like my puppet project. Like I want to do a puppet show, and it's similar in that I have an idea. I definitely want to have the artistic freedom to do it, but it's been challenging to me to work with other artists to create the puppet show. So that's a growing part for me. Like, it's not just me doing it. You can't really do a very good puppet show by just one person, I have learned that by experience. So yeah, just it's a learning curve for me to learn to work with other people and to give up a little bit of control. Somebody else has an idea about how it's going to go, different than me, learning to just say, okay, we'll see how that works. And I've been delighted that it definitely has worked better than my own ideas sometimes.
Yeah. Catherine, have you done any projects leading a group of either young people or community members?
Yeah, I've done a ton of things like that. We've done a lot of fundraisers for specific things. We did we did some work with, back in the day, I've done a lot of work with young people coordinating like window paintings for shops or political campaigns. Did a lot of work with that back in the early 200s. Yeah, I have a lot of experience working with young people. And there you find yourself in the role of just making sure you got a budget. They know what the budget is. And I did an event with the city Arts Council where I had a bunch of teens that did the art in the windows of the city market building when they were renovating it. And that was a little tricky because that was one of those ones where they provided the materials and we had to work with materials they provided. And that was a little trickier. Like I wish I had been involved more with that part of it. I don't know whether we just got materials they already had or whatever, but that was one of those learning ones for me. Like what they chose for us to work with were trickier than what I would have chosen for the experience these young people had. But yeah, it was a good experience to have them design something that they could create that seemed unified. If you walked around the building, there was a sense of this was created by a group.
Of these 4 areas, is there one that is the hardest for you to let go of? If you think of letting go of it, of being, okay, the community is going to make the call, or I'm going to put most of the decision making in their hands.
Oh yeah, no, I would be really hard to give up artistic design because it's ultimately my name that's going to be my reputation. And I've had a lot of things people will ask me to volunteer to be part of something. Oh, it's just going to be a little bit of your time, but it's also your name and your reputation. So you end up giving 100%, whether you're being compensated or given that freedom. So no, I would be really I would be really not interested in doing a project that I had no very limited control with the artistic design. Like that's what I know. That's my strong suit. You guys can do the budget. You guys can do the promotion. You can figure out all that part. I'm happy to let that go.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And let me go one more step. Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to go through it too. I mean, I've done a bunch of different things too out in the community. And I think one thing is that I don't even see it as a linear binary situation, artist or community. I think there's more of a triangle. I think it's a little bit more complex of who's got a say in that. And I think the city is a major player that should be considered, what its needs are, what it's asking for, and then the community that engages with it, and the artist as creator. So I think it's a 3-way street instead of 2. Mm-hmm. But working within the perimeters here, I think it is a dialogue. I think there's none of these steps that it should be just the artist or the community. I see it as entirely being initiated by one. So the artist might have an idea, approach the community, and then the community will give feedback, and then the artist helps to kind of, because I think an artist isn't just someone who makes art. I think an artist is someone who's got creative vision to be able to say to someone who has an idea how to take that idea and make it into something more complex with more of a vision. And to kind of stacking on kind of what Catherine was saying before, I'm sure Catherine's got this. I agree with her on this too. Your name is on it. And so people are always asking artists to it just takes a little bit of your time. It's actually really good for you. You can bring your students, it'll be good exposure for them. And you don't want to be rude. And I do feel it's a teaching moment, But to say like, if I have an opportunity to paint a mural for you, that's not really an opportunity for me. It's an opportunity for you. But, you know, how about you fundraise for the mural, and we can help fundraise for the mural. So there's more visibility, there's more conversation with their community. There's a building of worth then to say like, oh, that you had to pay for the mural? Oh, well, then maybe it's worth more than just a couple of kids put their handprints on the wall. And I think sometimes the intent and the reason why people want art to be there should never be never downplayed, because I think that's what we're all here for. We believe in the value of art being everywhere. But also the people who are advocating for the arts sometimes are the biggest detractors, because they're saying like, don't worry about it, it doesn't have to be good. You know, and I'm like, well, then why are you asking an artist to do something that doesn't have to be good? And it's, you know, you don't think it's valuable enough to even fundraise for it. Fundraising builds friends, fundraising builds buzz, fundraising builds people to find other ways to get involved who aren't artists or aren't necessarily doing things. So I think if we talk more about how an artist can actually create a vision of how the arts can really interact with people, I find that much more of my mission as an artist, is to say like, let's rethink this so that, you know, you're not, you know, you might not know it, but you're actually asking to exploit artists, to ask, like, bring your kids over here and paint a mural. And I think that's what's been great about what Yoda is doing. Is one of us, I think, was it number 3, pay the artist, Doug? I forget which number it was, but yeah. And it's not just pay the artist, but just give value to the art by saying we're going to we want the artists to get paid, because we want art of the value that art, everyone can recognize there's a big difference between getting art that's kind of free and good exposure for the artist, and art that's actually paid for, that the whole community had a chip in to actually make happen. I don't know if that answers questions, but it's sort of a spectrum thing for me.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Kyle. Oh, you're muted. Can you hear me? There you go.
I got it now. Yeah, I've got to say ditto to everything Brian said. I know when the art festival had artists there, one of the things that this is years ago, I don't know if it was still the case, but they would have musicians come and play, and the Parks and Rec or whoever put on the festival would say pretty much, oh, it'll be great exposure for you to get a gig. And they refused to pay art. So as a result, they got, you know, second class or beginners or people who were desperate. And it didn't reflect well on our city, you know, because you have people that will do it for exposure, but they're entry level, maybe people, and may have saved the city some money, but it didn't do a whole lot for our image. So I guess one of my pet peeves is, with anybody approaching me to do anything, it'll be great exposure for you. If I could eliminate that phrase from people's vocabulary, it's like you wouldn't go to an accountant or a doctor and say, well, if you do this for free, it'll be great exposure for you, as if everybody else will be willing to pay you if you demonstrate that you have value. So
Kathy,
I'll shut up now, because this was kind of one, which is why I think Year of the Artist is such an amazing thing, because it is hammering at the fact that we value our artists. We want to build their strengths, and we want to highlight that we're proud of the art that's in our city, and give us the opportunity to thrive with the materials and the support and the collaboration that we need without, you know, I joke with people, I say 80% of my business is volunteer work, and then I manage to barely scrape by on 20% of actual work, just because I'm out there getting exposure. And I know and one other thing is, how many musicians have we been able to pull into this conversation? Because right now, I think we have a lot of, visual artists and not necessarily theater people,
Yeah,
music people.
most folks, we've got some performance folks, but many people are also both, which has been interesting. And I'm not sure if they're.
Yeah,
we've
like
got a lot
Jay
of-
Gabriel is both.
Oh, yeah. And Simone is both. And, but yeah, I think writers too, like Kathy Henkel is both. She's on here. So she, a poet, writer, visual artist. I bet she sings. I'm saying that so she'll unmute and say something.
Okay, now you're making me feel inferior. I am a one-trick pony.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Kyle, we've already established that you're a performance artist.
Yeah, no, that's true, that's
The way
true.
you
You're right,
the
you're
way
right.
you facilitate as well as, as well as doing the actual drawings. Yeah.
Sure.
So Catherine Schnabel.
Yes, I had a thought I wanted to add, and I clearly agree with the circumstances that were just talked about in terms of exposure. Yes, we've all been there, but I want to just share a perspective while we're talking about this before it gets away from me about the collaboration part. And years ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was getting started on commission artwork with groups of people. So whether it's an architect and a public thing or a community or whatever, a group of people. And it was very clear to me that all these different people had a voice that they just wanted to speak from. So there's always going to be someone who's going to point out what could go wrong. Okay. There's going to be the person who's the frustrated artist who cannot wait to share their vision. Okay. And it occurred to me, I'm like, I need a foundation from which to operate so that this can go smoothly. And it just feels more authentic. And I came across the concept of servant leadership. And it's much too broad to talk about here, and it'll maybe be a good workshop piece. But in a nutshell, it's not religious or spiritual. I think that you get the best out of a group of people when each person contributes the best from who they are, and you expand that. And so when you think about it, if you say to the person who's always going to contribute the thing that could go wrong, if you take that, that's their gift, that's their voice, and let them talk about it and bring it out and write it down and feel that they're heard and just let that be out there. And then the other art person who wants to share their grand vision. But I found that if I could think of myself consciously, because I think all of us are doing this intuitively. So I'm not saying this is a new thing you should think about, but to bring it into your consciousness in a group of people and be like, okay, let's have everyone, feel like they really spoke. And as we measure ideas going down the path, so it's the plan and it's the design, did everyone from this, isn't this what we said we wanted to do? We said we wanted to do this, right? Okay, here's these ideas. Where are we feeling this one's going to match up the best? And I just found that to have that mentality, that perspective going through this chewy process, at the end, the piece that comes out of it, it's your work when it's your name on it, or it could be a nebulous thing, which is going to be some of these residencies. The buy-in and the feeling that everyone got to speak, it was so much more rich and so much more authentic. I didn't feel like I was there going, okay, now here's the design. What do you think? Don't you love it? I love it. It was more like, you guys, this is where we ended up, right? Right. And I want to share that perspective because to have it consciously in your mind when you're going about this, I think is really helpful. There, that's my contribution.
All right. So that sounds like in those processes, you were in the middle, farther on the right-hand side of the spectrum.
Well, I mean, you're servant, but you're leader because you got to help arrive somewhere. It's just making sure that people feel like they contributed without hijacking the project, right?
Yeah, and and then, well, I'll just throw it out there that there was that, kind of the idea of the ego that can get in the way of that kind of leadership as well. It's hard sometimes, to put yourself aside and knowing where in this process that you want to put yourself aside a little bit, and give the extra time to the people that I say the curmudgeon, and every community's got a curmudgeon. Invite him to the meeting. Let's hear
Yes.
it right up front, right from the beginning. And you will see sometimes, not all the time, not always, but sometimes there's a little bit of a light bulb moment or a little switch. Something changes in the process. Yeah, okay. So does anybody else have another project they want to talk about, or an experience they want to talk about in terms of this spectrum of collaboration? Kyle?
Am I muted?
Nope, you're good. I heard you.
Okay, good. Yeah, one of the projects that I've been thinking of after hearing about the singing circle, which I've been really looking forward to doing that at Fishburne House on June 19th, because it very much sounds like a laughter yoga event I did at a conference where Madan Kataria, who franchised laughter yoga, did something similar. Somebody would sing something and then another group would add into that, and at the end of it, there would be all these voices in harmony and sometimes not, in rhythms that were all added. But laughter yoga itself is an exercise that can be done anywhere. Of course, anybody can laugh. Is there how involved is the Parks and Recreation with any kind of art endeavor? I know they're mostly athletically inclined, but the Greenway is what connects all of our communities together because it runs through all the communities. So even if we were to have laughter circles and go from park to park, I guess I'm asking this group to troubleshoot that idea and play like what Catherine said, be the person that says that can't be done because, and what are the issues with that?
Oh, I think it's first off, I'll say Parks and Recreation is a tremendous partner. They do have arts and cultural offerings. Many of them happen in Fishburne Park and such, or Fishburne Mansion. But Michael Clark, who's the director of Parks and Recreation, is on our placemaking committee. So, which
it'd be just a matter of getting permission and setting it up.
Yeah, he really gets all of this. So yeah, I think an idea like that would be well received. And they'll tell you that, and this is if you look at the Arches project where Dan Keel painted the murals underneath the Memorial Bridge.
Yes.
The houses, and Polly Branch did the sandbox, and then we had performances from Virginia Children's Theater on diversity storytelling for families and children, and we did those 4 Saturdays in the summer of 2020.
I was going to say, where was I then? That explains it. If it's on Saturday, I usually am working.
Yeah. So it was, but that space, it's a park space. It was underutilized. It's just gorgeous. The arches there, but there's yoga that happens under there. The singing circles are happening there. They've got a little Facebook Arches page where people post what's going to be happening. There were some dance events going on there. But I say that in the Parks and Recreation was a big partner in that, and they saw it. And I think there are other spaces and other parts of parks. And the reason we first did that project was because there was graffiti on the other side of the bridge. And we know if we program spaces that they're going to be, that they'll be better cared for. So what you recommend is kind of programming. And I would go to that.
Mhm.
The other thing I think about the singing circle is that that there is the idea that not everybody can sing, and they're saying, well, no, maybe you can sing. Maybe if we do a little training and we teach you how to perform this one part, and you experience what it feels like to sing in a harmony. That education is a big part of this too, and it strikes me on the standards that Brian mentioned. I think that is a really important question, and it's one of the hardest things to do when you're working with a community where you want to respect and acknowledge and incorporate the ideas and the fingerprints of the people who you're working with, and you want to maintain that standard at the same time. So how, what is your personal style for gently educating, demonstrating, helping them grow artistically, even if they're doing a small part of it? And how do you keep people engaged when you have to say, well, we're not going to be able to do that because of X, Y, or Z? Yeah. Any other projects you want to talk about in the spectrum of collaboration? Are you tired of hearing me say spectrum of collaboration? All right. So with that, and then here are just some reflection questions that they incorporate with that. Where you land when you're thinking about your project. Are you comfortable in that role? Is it a stretch? Is it a stretch for you? Is it a stretch for the community? How do you prepare for it? If so, is there a conflict between what you're comfortable with and what the project needs? If so, can you bring others on board who can help you with that? And that's that collaboration aspect that Catherine Devine mentioned. And there's a great quote in here about kind of taking the time when you're bringing in a collaborator. Everything that we're going to be doing, and everything is relationship building, right? It's relationship with the community that you're working with, or the project partners. Brian mentioned a triangle. It's probably going to end up more being a star. Next week, we'll talk a little bit about stakeholder mapping and asset mapping, as we're still in these ground stages, so that we're thinking very broadly about the people who might be involved in a project, or affected by a project, or engaged in the project. If your team or community has a greater decision-making role, how do you support them in that role? Not every group is ready to make a decision together. And you can see projects kind of collapse. You see it in neighborhood associations all the time, where, they can apply for a grant to do a project, or they've got some resources to do a project, and they don't even end up doing anything because they can't even make the decision about which project to do, what the priority project would be. And so how do you support folks as they're making decisions? One thing I love is there's no one right decision. There are many right decisions, and we put so much on things. Sometimes we're afraid to make a decision. And a lot of what I'm doing this year is like, okay, let's make the decision and go. It may not be perfect, but let's do it and go. And then, and how do you, if you are comfortable, if you're not comfortable working with the community, how are the ways you step into it? Or if it's in the places you have to reinforce your artistic autonomy, how do you do it? How do you do it? Where is the right spot to do it? Any other thoughts on that before we leave it? Well, that was the big piece of tonight. I'm going to step back again to the key practices for the artists working in community. Be humble, work in collaboration, stay in listening and learning mode, be responsible and responsive to the community, be transparent and communicate. That communication part, I'm going to say that my biggest, the hardest time, it's the communication part. We're all trying to do so much so fast. where things could slip up, it's the communication. It's where we I forgot that, I didn't realize Samantha wasn't on the list. And Samantha would have loved to have been in these sessions. And so, that was, but I'm trying to, in ways, do too much too fast. But transparent and communication, and I mentioned those because you see it from the city side a lot, where people say, oh, we don't know what's going on with the city because they're not, there's no transparency. We want transparency in government. We want to see what's happening. Slowing down and communicating is the key part of that. Be ready to work through tension and conflict. See assets and opportunities where others may not see them. Work from existing assets. Recognize who holds power and influence and seek out those less represented or heard. And then know what you bring, those skills, passions, resources. And that there's that unique thing that you may not even be able to tell us what it is, but there is something about you that only you will bring into a project or a meeting. And I know it's true. And there are people who, I want to have in a meeting just because of them. And you would look through a matrix of the skills you want, and you'd never really find them on there, the roles or their skills, the reason they would be in the room. But there's a reason, but they just make everything flow better. Every neighborhood has those people, every organization. There are people out there who bring that, who aren't part of organizations because they don't feel like they belong, because they don't fit the role, or they don't, they haven't been asked. So knowing what you bring is key. And with that reminder that we've got, I'll put it out for any, well, I'll say this, then I'll ask again for questions or any comments. August 1st, the Art Matters grants are due. As I was saying, we're getting started. Project development right now is key. Grants that advance wellness, justice, and inclusion. And if we want to work with, you hear what's in this, we want to work with, if someone has a project that's engaging a part of the community that we haven't worked with before, that's who we want to work with. If there's a part of the community that feels marginalized, that's who we want to be working with. And the projects, applying for a grant, I'm happy to talk with people. It sounds like it's a cumbersome thing. It can feel like it's overwhelming if they've never done it before. I'm happy to talk to people and help them through it. You all can help people through it as well. But I bet there's some people out there that that have some good projects that would advance the community. We're super happy that those first 10, if you read the editorial in the newspaper, it was a great editorial about those 10 projects. So the community's already talking about them. I've seen images from Heather Marshall working with kids doing the artwork that's going to be hung in the Oliver Hill Justice Center and the the Juvenile and Domestic Relations courtroom, and that project's happening. The 25th, the Back to Black Art Show on Kirk Avenue. So I bet, and there might be some projects that are coming from people here in the call tonight. So make sure let's talk about them. And then June 21st is the next drop off for the self-portraits from 11 to 1 and 5 to 6:30. And we still have inspired grants. And these are small grants up to $100 if you want to attend a cultural event in the city that's going to help you think through. It's fun to go to, say, the opera has done some terrific work this year in their outreach, done some really unique things that they're stretching themselves. This is a way that we see as the Arts Commission of supporting the arts organizations and supporting artists. So we'll give you up to $100. Take a friend or a spouse, and if it's a $40 ticket, you can get 2 tickets, and then we'll give you $20 to buy dinner. I won't give you much of a dinner, but I'll get you a drink.
Can we double dip? Because I've already been awarded one of those.
If it's very particular to a project, we might let you double dip. If it's very
Does it
particular project you're developing. Yeah.
Does it have to be Roanoke City? Because there's an event coming up at Roanoke College.
I would probably, oh yeah, and it's a ticketed event. It's a ticketed event.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah.
because there's a fundraiser, there's a performer, a piano performance that's being planned. I believe it's July 18, where a Ukrainian pianist is performing, and it is a fundraiser, and the tickets are
Oh.
priced. So that's something I can fill you in more about.
Yeah, but that's aligned with your card project that you've done this year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
About-
th-
All right.
that would be, that
I'll
would be
learn more about it and I'll let you know.
great. That wouldn't be a problem at all. Yeah. So yeah, and because I do think that that's part of what fills our cup, right? When you're thinking about a project, you never know where inspiration is going to come from. And with that, it's 7:58. Any questions or comments and anything to close us out?
Well, I
Oh,
think-
yay, Greenway. I agree.
Well, I do want to add one thing. The one thing that we didn't mention, like when you, the list of all the things, is that there should be some awareness of that this is going to be fun. Like having fun with people, making new friends, it's fun. And I think that needs to be like acknowledged that that's a little bit of the glue that gets you over the tension, the conflict, the ups and downs. And I think bringing that awareness that having fun is what makes some of these art projects makes us move through it, the ups and downs. You see that cat.
That cat does not want you to talk. That cat's pay attention to me.
But I'm always reading something, but I'm reading a book called The Power of Fun. She has this great explanation of why people are drawn to be together, and it's collective effervescence. That when people are together, there's a different feeling. Isn't that great?
And we need we need that. We
Mhm.
need that. So collective effervescence, we'll add that to our list of what we're doing. Hey, Brian.
Yeah, I just like to ask Robin a little bit more about what's going on for Juneteenth. It sounds really cool. I plan on going. I know Catherine's planning on going. And I'd like to get as many people as I can to come and support it. But
Well, this is the, thank you, Brian. This is the second annual Eureka Park Juneteenth Festival. It was a really big hit last year, and it's coming back this year with a lot of excitement, and it's completely free. It's open to the community. All are welcome to come out. They are still looking for volunteers, so if you know anyone who may want to volunteer a couple of hours on Saturday, that's an option as well. But there are going to be performances, some music. There's games and activities for the kids. We're looking for someone to do some face painting.
I think Jane's going to be there. Jane's going to be there.
Okay. So yeah, I know that they were saying something about getting a face painter, but it's going to be a fun-filled day. There's going to be some vendors out there, some really good food, and just a fun day for the community. So if you have some time in your Saturday, Eureka Park from 12 to 4 is the place to be. And then if you have any more time in your Saturday, Salem Red Sox is hosting a Black Heritage game night for Juneteenth. And there's some great artwork that'll be out there as well. So definitely, if you can make it out to any of that on Saturday, Eureka Park, and then Salem Red Sox game on Saturday evening.
you have a great T-shirt design. I think your poster design is fantastic. So I haven't, we just met, and I'm really impressed by the work you do. Can we buy T-shirts there?
Yes, there will be T-shirts. The official T-shirts will be there for sale, and there will be some other things there for sale. All backgrounds will have other things out there for sale as well. But yes, the official T-shirts, I'll have those out there for sale. if you'd like to
Robin,
get
I have
one.
an
Okay,
apprentice.
I'm looking for it.
I have an apprentice caricature artist who
Pardon?
may be willing to come and do her time. Who should she talk to?
I can send you the email address, or actually, I'll just drop it in the chat here. And
See, people, Catherine, people always remember the face painters, but they never remember the caricature artists. I can't do it. I'm already booked for those 2 days, so
Okay.
all day. I've got 2 events.
So yeah, I just that if any caricature, I think that would be amazing. But I did drop the email
I see it.
in there. I'm on the planning committee, but I'm not, I'm not the head of the planning committee. I'm just on the committee, but they said to shoot an email to that email address, and someone should be able to get back to you and get you on board. But we'd love to have that out there for sure.
Excellent. And then Robin, do I just follow up with you about
You can, if you could, Doug, could you shoot an email to that email address as well?
Will do. Yep.
I did, while we were on the call, I just dropped a message in our planning committee group chat, and that's what they suggested, was to shoot an email. But we'd love to have that. I think it would be great, because when we were talking about more people knowing about the Year of the Artist, I think that would be a great way to, spread more awareness about what Year of the Artist is doing, for sure.
Great. I bet we can make it happen.
Is the Year of the Artist inviting, or can we have visibility on the new refreshment zone that's downtown on Friday and Saturday nights?
I don't know. What is this? I should know what this is.
The refreshment zone? They're allowing people to walk around.
Oh,
with
yeah. I know that's what they were
drink or
calling it.
alcohol on Friday and Saturday. So they're not stuck in a restaurant. Now they can,
Yeah. I talked with Tina a while ago about that, because she loves the idea of connecting with the galleries up to a certain, because it's an early drinking crowd, because it closes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the perfect place for developing street performers.
Yeah.
Buskers, and having a stage, in Myrtle Beach and some of these other places, they do have specific pre-screened buskers. So it's not like where people are scared that it's just homeless people or somebody just setting up. To have a specific spot set up by the marketing team down there for anybody doing face painting that's been, screened, by the community. Because I would like to go down there if, when I'm not booked, and maybe some face painters or balloon twisters or something like that.
Yeah, Kyle, Tina Workman with Downtown Roanoke is very interested in all that. She's told me very specifically that that's exactly the kind of vibe that she wants down there. So, and they've got resources to pay people.
Oh, really?
People, yeah, and I'll be in a meeting with her tomorrow, I think tomorrow, about another downtown project. But yeah, I think we're all thinking the same way. So it might be just a matter of having.
Because I could be doing laughter yoga down there. I could be doing caricatures.
Yeah. Let me check in. Let me check in with her on this. We might just have to design a little strategy that formalizes it. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all for taking the time and being here tonight. It was good seeing you, and I'll see you next week at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.